Okay, follow me if you would. Finished, this is how it's written, finished with my woman because she couldn't help me with my mind. People think I'm insane because I'm frowning all the time. All day long I think of things and nothing seems to satisfy. Think I'll lose my mind if I don't find something to pacify. Can you help me occupy my brain? I need someone to show me the things in life that I can't find. I can't see the things that make for true happiness. I must be blind. Make a joke and I will sigh. You will laugh and I will cry. Happiness I cannot feel. Love to me is so unreal. And so, as you hear these words telling you now of my state, I tell you to enjoy life. I wish I could, but it's too late. The song is Paranoid by Black Sabbath. As all of you know, Ozzie Osbourne was the lead singer of Black Sabbath. It's interesting that when I was 18 years old, that was the last song that I heard before I passed out in a bar, a biker bar in Ireland. Next thing I know, I'm waking up in the bar. The lights come on. They're kicking everybody out. And I'm lying there with some poor girl who I just met, probably about the same age. I was high on various substances. I was drunk. And I was about to get kicked out of the bar. And just as I was about to get kicked out of the bar, as I kind of sobered up, I saw this 1%er biker, older guy. He looked to me like he was 60, he was probably early 30s. But he came stumbling over to me with this girl, and I'm lying back in the bar seats, and he comes over and he goes right at me. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. That's what it's all about. And I sat there as I kind of came out of that haze, and I realized it hit me. It's all empty. It's all empty. The lights came on in that bar, but the lights came on in my head. And it doesn't matter how much I partied, didn't matter how much I drank, didn't matter how much sex I had, didn't matter how much money I had, didn't matter how many street fights I won, didn't matter how much people thought I was a great guy. It's all empty. All of it. That's when I woke up. Matthew found himself in a similar situation. First of all, Matthew was a tax collector. And for his fellow Jews, tax collectors were the worst kind of people. Now, why is that? Well, who looks forward to paying Uncle Sam? Nobody does. No one can sit and wait and, I can't wait the tax time, get to write that check, send it off to our government. I know they'll put it to good use. Nobody's thinking that. And Matthew was the tax man for the Romans. How did his neighbors look at him? Well, they saw him really as the lowest of the low in the world. He and his fellow tax collectors were traitors. They had sold out their own people, and they collected taxes for their enemies, the Romans. But they were also used by the religious teachers as the examples of how not to live life and what you're not to be. They were classed, there was two classes of people that were the lowest of the low: the tax collectors and the prostitutes. and Matthew was the lowest of the low. Now, what kind of man would it take to be able to live that kind of life? Well, I would say this. Matthew was hard-headed. He didn't care about his religious neighbors and what they thought of him. He couldn't care to do that job. If he's going to be a tax collector, then he had to have his own mind. Now, everybody was moralizing him to him. Everyone's condemning him. But Matthew didn't care. Matthew was his own man. He wasn't going to be guilt-tripped or argued into getting with the religious program. See, he had rejected the whole church thing. He rejected the whole ritual thing. And why was that? Because Matthew was shrewd enough. He saw through the religious leaders. He saw through them bigging themselves up. He saw through them taking advantage of the vulnerable. He saw them politicking. He saw them getting movements behind them. And he wasn't buying into it because he was too shrewd. He was too wise. But he had rejected the religion with it. And Judaism, at that day and today, it's a dead religion. But Matthew, and nobody knew it, was seeking God. Seeking God. Probably off reading the scriptures in secret. He would have had the money to buy the scriptures at that time. So he's collecting taxes. He seemed to be the lowest of the low, but all the time he's sneaking off and seeking God. But how did he look at himself? Well, his name was Levi. The tribe of Levi were to minister in the temple before God. They were the priestly class, so to speak, servants of God to help the people get to know God better. And all the time, his name is Levi, and he's selling his people out. He couldn't even say his name without realizing that he was in the wrong place at the wrong time in life, doing the wrong thing in life. He was called for a greater purpose. And that had to be hard for him. And he wasn't happy. He definitely wasn't happy. Yes, he had the money. Yes, he had the cars, the houses, the vacation, the toys. The world was his oyster, but he was miserable, even having it all. But he knew he was miserable. And that's the genius of Matthew, because he was a thinker. He was contemplating the bigger questions in life, the meaning of life. Unknown to everyone, he was thinking about why he's on the earth. What's the meaning of all of this? Why am I here? What's the purpose? And number one, what happens when he dies? What happens when you die? There's the big one. Matthew was thinking about that. But the reason he's thinking about these things was because the Spirit of God wouldn't leave him alone. And Matthew couldn't leave God alone, but God wasn't going to leave Matthew alone. Oh no. See, the living God, he won't leave you alone. He won't let us go on in our lives with our plans and in our misery, just kind of cope with it all. God is in the getting involved in your life, uninvited business. That's God. Now, the religious people around Matthew, they were always inviting him to church. Everyone was trying to get him to come to church. Everyone was pushing him to listen to the new rabbi or the new pastor. Everybody's coming and saying, well, Matthew, why don't you come and listen to this guy? Why don't you come to the synagogue? Why don't you be a part of it? Take another look at our religion. And Matthew would not budge. Because Matthew wasn't interested in pastors. Matthew was seeking God. Nothing's changed today. The worst thing about religious people is they're always trying to introduce you to their pastor. They've got some kind of pastor fetish. I don't know where it comes from, but it's there. They're always trying to introduce you to their pastor. Oh, you're going to love my pastor. And then you meet him. You've got the slimy pastor. You met him, right? Slimy pastor. He's always groveling. He's always apologizing for everything. Oh, I'm really sorry for, bothering you. I hope I'm not putting you out. Oh, if I could just do this, and I don't really want to scare you away. That's the slimy pastor. I can handle the slimy pastor. But then you get the shiny, gleaming pastor. You ever met him? It's like he shines. When he comes into the room. And he's a salesman. He's slick. How will I get you into this church today? Is his angle. Oh, we got stuff for the kids. We got stuff for the husbands. We got stuff for the wives. We're getting a new building. There's basketball. There's hockey. We'll get a soccer field in for you. We'll do whatever it takes. Just help me get you into the church today. Can't be bothered with that. People line up to follow that kind of pastor. Then you get the angry, judgmental, doom and gloom pastor. Never smiles, comes into the room with a dark cloud. Wife is exactly the same. They're all filled with the love of Jesus, but they're miserable. And they want to tell you how bad you are. They want to tell you how God really hates you. Not going to mention Jesus, who died for you on the cross. They're doom and gloom, and the world is all wicked and out of God's control. And then you meet this guy, the wolf. Wolf's slick. He's a criminal pastor. He's interested in you tithing because God just wants to bless you. God's whole goal in life is to give you more money. And how's he going to do that? Well, you're going to give it to the pastor like an investment scheme, right? And then God's going to pay you off. I'm wondering, why? So that sounds like a racket to me. But people will listen to them. Wolves. Wicked. Wolves. Lastly, the high-energy pastor. He's like the pastor who's on meth. The guy just can't stand still. He just got so much enthusiasm about his religion that he's tweaking. He's like a Christian tweaker. And he wants you to get on board with it. And people want to introduce you to these men. I can understand why Matthew wasn't interested. I can understand why you're not interested. You shouldn't be less interested, because Christianity is not a matter of pastors. It's a matter of God. It's a matter about the living God. So Matthew's sitting on the seashore. He sees a crowd coming towards him, and there had to be hundreds, thousands maybe. And in the middle of it is all the religious leaders. And in the middle of all the religious leaders is Jesus. And Matthew thinks, oh, I'm going to meet the pastor. Here he comes. Matthew had done research on Jesus. There's no doubt about that. This wasn't the first time he heard about him. This is the first time he's going to meet him. So here comes the pastor. And where's Matthew sitting? At the tax booth. At the tax booth. Don't miss that. Matthew's sitting in the middle of his sin when Jesus comes towards him. And what's Matthew thinking? Here it comes. Here comes the sermon. Here comes the, you need to get back to church. Here comes the sales pitch. Here comes the condemnation. I'm going to get blasted because I'm the bad guy. And all the Jewish pastors are there in tow. And what are they thinking? Oh, Jesus is going to sort this guy out. Jesus is going to have a Bible class with him. He's going to be called to repent of his sins. Or he's going to give him a sales pitch like we have done. He's never listened to us. Jesus walks up to Matthew in the middle of a sin at the tax booth, and he says two things to him. Follow me. Follow me. Doesn't moralize to him. Doesn't say, how come you sold out your people? How come you haven't found your life's purpose? You're meant to be a Levite. You're meant to be up in the temple. Doesn't say, you know how bad you really are. Or he doesn't say, you know how God really loves you. And, he's got warm cuddlies. And he's just this giant hippie in the sky that wants you to feel better about yourself, Matthew, and find your own acceptance there. He doesn't do that. He says, follow me. If you've ever done any martial arts in your life, you should be able to understand what Jesus is saying here. When you get involved in martial arts, as I was for a number of years, you commit to learning from your teacher. And you learn from your teacher in two ways. One way, he gives you verbal instructions, gives you information, lays it out before you. Here is the system, this is how it works. And the second one is he models it to you. You start to learn from him, but you model him. You watch how he moves, and that's how you move. You watch how he responds to this action. You respond exactly the same way. You mirror him. And that's what Jesus is saying to Matthew here. He's calling him like a student to live the life that he lives, to mirror him, to learn from him didactically, which is getting information, but they also model how he lives. This is what Matthew is called to. Christ is offering him a new way of being a man. To give up his old way of being a man and to be a man like Christ. Now, this is what Christ is doing today. This is what Jesus is doing in the lives of all those in the world around us today. He's coming uninvited into their lives, into the lives of sinful men who realize that what they've got in this world, when they boil it all down, when they crush the numbers, when they look at it on paper, when they sit back in the midst of it, they see that it's all empty. As Matthew did, as I did, Jesus is confronting men in their lives today. He's arriving in the middle of it. The little lives that we built for ourselves. This, I'm going to do it my way. I'm doing this for my family. I don't like organized religion. I've got my own beliefs. I worship God my way. Not going to work. He's not putting up with it. He's arriving. And he's not afraid of a little bit of pain to reach you. To reach you. But the good news is that he's reaching in, not to restrict us, not to set a set of rules upon us, not to enslave us to religion, not to get us involved in churchianity. God is reaching in that you and I might have life. Life. That the emptiness that we experience, even when I get what I want, I come up empty. Christ is reaching in to give us life, to fill us. Now, what's Matthew do when Jesus says, follow me? Well, he doesn't hesitate. He doesn't try to negotiate with him. He doesn't say, look, give me 6 months and I'll think about this more and then get back to you again. He gets up and he follows him. He leaves that empty way of life behind and becomes a disciple of Jesus. And why was that? Because he found the truth. He found the truth that he was looking for, standing in front of him, truth in the flesh. God came knocking on Matthew's door. Matthew manned up and he listened. And he did it because he was his own man. Matthew realized that he got it all wrong when it came to life. And when he got it all wrong, he confronts it that he got it wrong. It takes a man to do that. When he realizes he's wrong. How do you do admitting you're wrong? Well, I'm not always right, but I'm seldom wrong. Well, I just see it a different way. I come at it from a different perspective. Wrong. Wrong. We don't do well with admitting we're wrong. But Jesus, he'll confront us when we're wrong. And it takes a man to say we are, but there's some things we're not mad about when we're wrong. Remember writing a check to Uncle Sam? Oh, I have to pay him $7,500. Hold on, I'm wrong. It's $3,500. And then we're dancing, right? Hey, I was wrong. I even count that as $4,000 that you didn't have, right? So we're okay with being wrong when it's to our advantage. The good news for us, the gospel, that's what the good news means, is we've been told that you only get 70 or 80 years on this planet, then you die. After that, if you believe there could be a good place, there could be a bad place. Good place kind of sucks because it's all white and they're beating harps and you have to stand around singing hymns for eternity. That kind of sucks to me. I mean, that sounds like the other place, right? But there's an idea. There's this idea that all you get is 70 or 80 years on the planet, and then everybody you love, they're all gone. You're never going to see them again. If you're a Buddhist, you might meet them because you'll be a snail, and they could be the slime. That's something to look forward to, right? We've been told this. It's a lie. It's a lie. We're not here for 70 or 80 years on the planet. Then everybody goes, we're gone. And I'm wondering, is that you, Christopher, in the foggy haze? Or that's not it. We're made for more. You're made for eternity. This is a short period of time on this earth. But Jesus Christ came into the world that we might have. Listen to it. Just the word immortality. Immortality. Eternal life. That we might be immortals. Not floating around. The Greeks hoped for that. The Romans played with it too. No. Resurrection. That we might come out of the grave embodied. That this will all be changed to be immortal. Immortals. In a new heaven and earth. Together with one another. In a world free from evil, wickedness, politics. There will be no more voting to do. There will be no more guy up there who's going to fix all the problems. There'll be no more selling it to us, giving us the same spiel over and over again. Everything is going to be changed. And that's the good news. Sometimes it's good to be wrong. especially when death can be defeated. And through Christ, we can be immortals. In him. I'm nearly wrapping it up. Thank you for bearing with me. We're nearly there. One of the guys that never got out of the scene I was into in Ireland, and I can't mention his name for legal reasons. I'm still in contact with him. He's a stone cold gangster. I mean, he was carrying guns for the mafia when he was 14, hiding them for them. They saw what was in him. And he's a dear friend of mine. I love him. He's done some time back in Ireland for various different activities. Probably should have done more time. If he's listening to this, he knows it's only by the grace of God that he got out of Amsterdam that time. But I digress. The last time I was back in Ireland, he took me out for dinner, and he's dressed, I'd say his clothing must have been $4,000 worth of clothing, all Italian. His watch is thousands of dollars, chains, the rings, the BMW cars or whatever. And we talked for a while. Of course, we talked about Jesus because he knows who I am and what I'm about. I know who he is. And he loves me and I love him, but we needed to talk. After 3 hours, I left his home. And he was just me and him by himself. And he said to me, Ian, he says, I've tortured people. I've tied them up. I've put guns to their heads to get money out of them. He says, I've done a lot worse than that. I said, just hold on. Don't make me an accessory after the fact. And it wasn't a joke. Then he started crying. Not pretend tears, man tears. I mean, he was broken. You only usually in Ireland, you only do that with your father or somebody here in a funeral, you know what I mean? In private, nobody else is around. But he did it with me. And I'll never forget what he said to me. He said, Ian, I just want to feel clean on the inside. And he repeated it. I just want to feel clean on the inside. Because the weight of the things that he'd done, didn't matter the jewelry, didn't matter the vacation home, the motorboats, and he had them all. Didn't matter the piles of money. Just couldn't get right with himself. He only wanted to feel good feel clean on the inside. I said, I coughed there. I didn't mention any. I said, I know the man that can help you. See, that's why Christ came. He came that we might beat death and that we might be forgiven and that we might be made clean on the inside. I left that biker bar when I was 18. I'd woken up to it all being empty. I'd counted the cost. I looked at Jesus and said, you know what, Ian, you're going to become a Christian, son. You're going to have to turn your back on all of this. And I took about a year and I counted the cost. At 19, I was baptized into Christ. Went public with it. Went under the water in front of witnesses. I died, buried, and rose again to walk in newness of life. It's all very simple. You remember Jesus died, was buried, and rose again on the third day. And I've been following him since. How did the whole bar respond? Because they all knew me. Oh, they mocked me. And in Ireland, they know how to mock. We're professionals at it. I remember standing outside a bar with 12 guys walking down the street who I would be usually go to the bar with. And they all have what we used to call carryouts, which was going to the package store, the liquor store, getting a load of booze and going and drinking that before you went into the bar, because you drank that before you went into the bar because you're hammered when you go in, so it saves you money. I used to do that every weekend with them, and they're all walking down the road across from me after I became a Christian, and they all started singing, "Jesus loves me." Jesus. I have to give it to them. I mean, it was funny. It was funny, and it was aimed at me. It was aimed. That was funny. But you know what? If you can't take a bit of mocking by miserable people, what kind of man are you? You know what I mean? That's not much of a man. So I got up and I left that world. Matthew gets up and he leaves his empty life and followed Christ. And it cost him everything. It cost him his job, his friends, his money. It cost him everything. And you know what happened to Matthew? Now, this is what tradition says. He was either one of the three: beheaded, burned, or stoned to death for Christ. Which one would you choose? Beheading sounds pretty quick, doesn't it? Burned. Don't like the idea of being burned. Stoned. It's kind of beady. You know what I mean? But he died for Christ. Someone says, well, that was a disaster. Why? Everybody dies. It's not a matter of how you die. It's how you live before you die that matters. And you know, we're talking about Matthew nearly 2,000 years after he lived this life. We're talking about him today. Nobody's talking about us 20 years after we die. Why did Matthew give it up? Why did he go to his death for Christ? Because Jesus hung on a cross for him. For him. He died on a cross for him, and Matthew laid his life down for him. And that's what Christ and this supper is about today. It talks to us about the cross. It's an uncomfortable truth, but Christ died for you, for me, and for us. It's uncomfortable, but it's true. Someone says, well, I didn't ask him to die for me, so I don't owe him anything. That's right, you didn't ask him to die for you. But you didn't ask those men who held the line at Bunker Hill to die for you either, did you? You didn't ask those 1,000 Scots-Irish men on the frontier who marched over mountains through snow and ice in Pennsylvania and ate green corn because they didn't have any food on their way to fight the English at King's Mountain. Had to leave 100 of them behind because they were exhausted and frostbitten, and they went up King's Mountain and beat English army that outnumbered them and changed the course of the war. Didn't ask them men to do that, but they did it for you. And what did you get out of it? You got a country and you got freedom. A constitution to boot. Regardless how you like it, Jesus died for you. You think you don't owe him anything? He's your only hope. He's your only hope. He gave us this bread and this fruit of the vine to bring us back to the cross. Yes, he didn't die for us, but he took a bullet for you. Why would anyone do that for their enemy? Well, they loved them, but maybe they're saving them from something. Do you know every religion believes in hell, including the atheists? The atheist dies and wakes up and I'm standing there. He's in hell. Some men say, I don't believe in hell. But they don't want to talk about it. Isn't that weird? They don't want to talk about something they don't believe in. You know why? We all know it's real. We all know it's real. But the good news is Christ died so we don't have to go there. The question isn't, will you start going to church? He doesn't care about you going to church. It's not a question, is you going to give up that sin and stuff that's destroying you? You already know you need to give it up. It's destroying you. We all do. In the end, Jesus is asking you this: will you admit that it's all empty? And will you be a man and say you're wrong and make a readjustment and follow the truth? Follow Jesus Christ in the immortality, in the eternal life. And let me finish with this before we take the supper. Let me finish with the words of Ozzie Osbourne. I tell you to enjoy life. I wish I could, but it's too late.